for analysis on Turkey, the EU, and what Operation Olive Branch is doing to those relationships. We're going to bring in Sinan Ulgen, who joins me now from Pretoria. He's the chairman of EDAM, an Istanbul-based independent think tank. Thank you so much for your time. First off, what do you make of the US position on Turkey's military operation?
Well, I mean, when you look at the readout of yesterday's conversation between US President Trump and Turkish President Erdogan, I think there are at least two clear messages. The first one is that as far as the first phase of this operation is concerned, namely if it's limited to Afrin, then the US is certainly has a position that is rather favorable to the Turkish initiative and the cross-border operation. Where it gets complicated, however, is in the later phases of this operation, which the Turkish Prime Minister Binali Yildirim stated yesterday, which might indeed include not only Manbij, but also the eastern part of this region, and including the Rojava canton. This is where the US position becomes much more opposed to Turkish aspirations. Claiming that this would breed further instability and it would undermine the fight against the Islamic State.
Why then do you think that the US has a different stance from the Afrin operation to Manbij or further east? What is the difference there as far as the US is concerned?
Well, I mean, there are at least 2 points to highlight there. The first one is that the Afrin region has never really been under US control. It's been under Russian influence, and therefore the US has very little to lose and more to gain by essentially not opposing Turkey in this region. However, the Manbij region and the eastern part is of course a different story from the US perspective, because this is a region that falls under US control, where there are a number of US military based. But ultimately, the reason why the US may indeed, at least for the time being, oppose to Turkey enlarging the scope of this operation is that Washington believes that they can use YPG in the medium term as not only to fight against the Islamic State, but also as a US proxy that would allow Washington to retain a degree of control on the ground at a time when the parties are heading towards a political settlement, firstly, and secondly, also as part of a strategy to contain Iran in Syria.
And just finally, we heard earlier from Turkey's Omar Çelik, just one of the Turkish officials who met with Federica Mogherini from the EU today. What is the EU's position on Operation Olive Branch?
Well, the EU has been conspicuously silent on Operation Olive Branch, and we saw this as well today after the meeting between the EU Minister Omar Çelik and Federica Mogherini. However, there has been initiatives taken by individual EU member states. We have seen, for instance, last week or at the beginning of the week, France taking the initiative to table this at the UN Security Council. A few hours ago, Germany stated that they would call a NATO meeting to discuss the operation. So we have seen initiatives from individual EU member states, but not so much a common EU position, at least for the time being.
Thank you so much for that analysis. Really good to have you on the program. That's Sinan Ulgen, live from Pretoria.